So apparently, a bunch of designer brands have been opening up luxury restaurants all across America. These are literally the same brands that have sold fancy bags for $2,800 when they only cost $57 to make. If you ask me, these designer restaurants sound like a huge scam. But for some reason, they all have really good reviews. I want to know what all the hype's about, which is why I'm about to visit some of the most famous designer restaurants to see for myself if they're worth the price, or are people just paying for the brand? Now, my journey begins a few hours away in Austin, Texas, and designer restaurant number 1 is right behind me. This is the Coach Coffee Shop. Opened in 2025, it's actually Coach's second food location in the US. Now, I know technically this isn't a restaurant, however, they do have food. Most importantly, it is the cheapest designer spot I'm visiting in this entire video, which means there could be a chance it's actually worth the money. But before I go inside, let me explain how things are gonna work. To keep it simple, I'll be judging each designer restaurant based on my experience, the overall tastiness of the food, and of course, the price. So when you walk in, the coffee shop is directly to your right, which is pretty nice since you don't actually have to walk through the entire Coach store and potentially get distracted by expensive things to buy. Also, I gotta say, first impressions, the coffee shop looks way more legit than I expected. Their menu is pretty simple, and maybe it's because I was expecting like $20 coffees, but the prices didn't look too bad. While I was reading up on the place, I did see a lot of reviews raving about something called a tabby cake, which is one of their pastries designed to look like a Coach purse. Seems a little extra to me, but also, I guess, is on brand. I walked up to the counter, placed my order, and once that was done, I just had to check out Coach's exclusive coffee shop merch. So all of their merch is definitely a lot cheaper than buying traditional designer Coach. However, it still is very pricey. I'm pretty sure one of those t-shirts costs like $75. I don't know why. That seems crazy to me. This shirt cost me like $10. They even have their own coffee shop mascot, and this little dude is plastered everywhere in the store. And I mean everywhere. He's on all of the merch, their coffee machines, the tables, the front window, even the napkins. I do have to admit, it is very cute, and if my girlfriend were here, she would be making some pretty irresponsible purchases. I will not be doing that, though. Thank you. So the food and drinks have been acquired, and I can confirm this definitely feels fancier than a regular coffee shop. Their plastic cups have the mascot on it. This box is literally just for the one pastry, and they even hooked me up with some soft serve since I'm the first customer today. So that's pretty cool. Now, one thing I do have to say is I did get a little bamboozled because even though the coffee was very decently priced, this tabby cake cost way more than I thought. The price of it was not on the menu. It ended up bringing the total cost for just the pastry and the coffee to $24, which that's insane. Regardless of how pricey things are, I didn't want to be a total buzzkill, so I took a few photos of the food for my Instagram since I'm like 99% sure that's one of the major reasons why these designer restaurants exist in the first place. Let's try this coffee. I got a pretty basic vanilla latte since I'm assuming that's what a majority of people would get. One thing I'm curious about is how much coffee flavor this actually ends up having. I'm also hoping it's not too sweet. Cheers. Honestly, it's not bad. Now, if I were to get specific, I definitely don't taste a ton of like deep coffee flavor. At the same time, it's also not super sweet, which I appreciate. I'm honestly kind of conflicted about how I feel about this. Now let's try the soft serve since it was free and it already started melting. I'm just noticing this now. They even put the Coach logo stuff and the coffee mascot inside the ice cream. Is that edible? I can't tell if that's just paper, but I swallowed it anyways. The soft serve itself honestly isn't bad. Now it's time to try their tabby cake. The outside of this is covered in chocolate, and the inside should be vanilla cake. I think. Cheers. Alright, y'all. I've officially made up my mind, but first, I had to go outside. I high-key hate making final decisions inside stores, especially since that coffee shop is very tiny, and everyone working there could hear every single little thing I'm saying. So, anyways, overall, the coffee wasn't terrible. The experience itself was fancier, but at the same time, it wasn't too different from a regular coffee shop. The two things I can't get over, though, is the price, and that tabby cake was horrible. I don't even know how to explain it. The texture was weird. It was way too sweet. I thought the inside was going to be cake. It was not cake. It was more chocolate. Definitely was not a big fan of that. So with that being said, was the Coach Cafe worth it? I really hate to disappoint anyone who's a big fan of Coach, but unfortunately, people are definitely paying for the brand here. Surprise! I'm now with my girlfriend Carrie because she is not as big of a hater as I am. The next designer restaurant is right behind us, and it's called Cafe Dior. This restaurant is located in Dallas, Texas, and also recently opened in 2025, which kind of goes to show how trendy these designer food spots are becoming. The cool thing is they actually do serve real food here, and I already know it's gonna be more expensive than the Coach coffee shop, which makes me a little nervous since I will already be spending more money since there's the both of us. The real question is, do you think it's gonna be worth it?
I am a little skeptical of gimmicky restaurants, but I like Dior, so I'm hopeful.
Honestly, I'm just praying I don't walk out of here having purchased a purse.
Hey, listen, if that's an option.
I can't afford that. Let's go inside. As we walked through the front door, I immediately realized this place was gonna be on another level compared to the Coach coffee shop. Dior is a way fancier brand though, so I guess I should have expected that. I hear classical music playing from upstairs. There was no classical music at the Coach Cafe. I feel out of my element. Hi, how's it going? Good, good. We have a reservation for two, under Dylan. Awesome, thank you. So we just got seated. What are your thoughts so far?
I think it's really pretty in here, but it is kind of small, and we're like right in the middle of the room.
Are you as intimidated as I am?
Maybe a little bit.
Now, what's really cool about Cafe Dior is that this restaurant was actually made in partnership with Dominique Crenn. She's literally one of the best chefs in the world and the first woman ever to receive 3 Michelin stars. Technically, that means the food should be really good, but it also means immediately when I turned to the starters page, the first thing on the menu is $175. It is caviar, so that makes sense, but still. That was very shocking to see. Now, despite my initial reactions, everything else on the menu does sound very tasty. Our waiter did recommend that we get multiple dishes since they're small. To me, that just sounds like things are gonna cost more, but I do want to leave here full. You know what you want?
I think so. Are we supposed to get multiple starters and mains?
I have no idea. Whatever doesn't cost me $1 bajillion.
Too late.
We placed our order, and while we waited for our food, my lovely girlfriend decided to tell me about a purse she saw when we walked in. How much is it?
At least 4,000.
Clearly, I was very caught off guard by what she just said. But then I decided to make lunch a little more interesting by making a deal with her where we would buy that purse if our food came out before I finished telling everybody about the sponsor of today's video, Chime. Chime is an award-winning financial app that millions of Americans use to manage, save, and spend their money. Chime believes everyone deserves to have financial peace of mind and can help you achieve it by building features and providing resources that help you stay ahead of the usual money pitfalls set up by traditional financial institutions. For example, having a good credit score is extremely important, especially when you're trying to make a big purchase like a car, which is why I'm excited to tell you about the secured Chime Credit Builder Visa credit card. Here we have my sourdough bread with our herbal butter. Awesome, thank you. I thought that was the real food for a second, and I got scared. It's just the bread course. Credit Builder is a secured Visa credit card that helps build credit with no annual fees or interest and no credit checks to apply. You can use it to pay for everyday items like food. In fact, I'm literally paying for our lunch with my Chime Credit Builder card. You can scan this QR code or check out the link in my description to sign up for Chime and take control of your finances today. Thank you, Chime, for sponsoring this video. How does it feel that you will not be walking out of here with a purse?
Typical. Haven't had one before. Not gonna have one now.
Now let's finally try this bread. It actually is really good bread, but I do like it more because it's free. So the starter just arrived and we got the May Hamachi. Cheers. Low key, I hate to admit this, but that's fire. The citrus lime vinaigrette, nice acidity, that's very yummy. So far, food-wise, Cafe Dior is off to a pretty good start. However, I do have to point out, just this starter alone cost more than everything I got at the Coach coffee shop. And just to make things a little more interesting, so our entrees have officially arrived. This is not what I was expecting. Although every dish we ordered looked beautiful, the portion sizes are tiny. We got some prawns with an XO sauce and some chili crisp on top. Seared tuna with, honestly, this looks like bacon, but it's not. And a crispy potato puree. Despite all my complaining, I did take some photos to post later since the dishes were plated very beautifully. Then, it was time to try their $47 tuna violet. I think I'm saying that right. Cheers. What you think?
Honestly, it's really good, first of all. But it kind of is like reminiscent of a steak to me. I don't know what exactly is in the sauce. Maybe it's because I'm thinking this tasted like bacon. I don't really know. It tastes like a steak to me. But it's really good. That didn't make any sense. Let me do that again.
I'm not gonna let Carrie re-explain that. Honestly, she has a point. The tuna was marinated in like a mandarin sauce, so it's a little citrusy, but overall, the mouthfeel pretty similar to a steak. Next, we tried their crispy potato puree, which honestly needed some salt. And afterwards, Carrie discovered she's a really big fan of their Marbella prawns.
That's really good. Whatever's in the sauce, I could eat that just on its own with a spoon.
That was about it for the entrees, but we couldn't leave without getting ourselves a little sweet treat. We both were actually pretty excited about this part since Cafe Dior specializes in something called haute couture pastries, which essentially is just a fancy way of saying they're pretty and expensive. So desserts have arrived, and honestly, these are beautiful and blow the Coach tabby cake out of the water looks-wise. This is called the La Marie. I think it's like a vanilla something with an edible gold bee. And over here we got a flower with pistachios. Which do you want to eat first?
I think this one.
Honestly, that wasn't my favorite. While I'd like to assume that they use natural ingredients, the raspberry filling tasted kind of artificial. The La Marie, however, had a completely different fruit jam filling, and I'm sure you can tell from our reactions, that's a tasty pastry. I like that one. The grand total for all of the food came out to over $250, including tip. As expected, that was way more expensive than the Coach coffee shop. And the crazy thing is, that's not even gonna be the most expensive place I'm visiting in this video. I do think the food was good. I have some other thoughts about it, but let me hear yours.
Already using ChatGPT? Well, Grammarly makes the next step effortless. Refining your writing with clarity.
First.
I think the food was really, really good, and it was really pretty. But I think for over $200 and it just being a cafe, you could probably find that somewhere that's not Dior, and it would maybe be a little more worth the money.
I'm gonna have to agree. Again, the food was good, but it doesn't help that I was still hungry after lunch. So I'm in New York, and if you couldn't tell by the crazy looking building right next to me, the next designer brand is Louis Vuitton, and their restaurant is called Le Café. It's actually their first permanent food location in the US, so this place is super popular, and getting a reservation here is so difficult, I wasn't actually able to get one. However, I did read up that if you walk in first thing in the morning on a weekday, there is a chance you can walk in. So that's what we're gonna do. Hopefully it works. The other thing I have to figure out is how on earth I actually get inside that giant building. I gotta cross the street. This building is ridiculous. After walking around the perimeter, I came across this door with a sign basically telling me I was in the wrong spot. Apparently, this is LV's corporate office and not where I go to get food. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. That kind of feels like clickbait. Apparently the restaurant's actually somewhere in this building right across the street. That is more boring than the giant luggage, but back across the street I go. Now, even though I finally made it to the right place, the LV store wasn't open yet. But don't worry, that's actually a good thing since your boy got to be the first person in line. This may be a little confusing, but trust me, this increases my chances of getting into the restaurant by a lot, especially since this line got long very fast. Once the doors opened, I speed walked into the building, beelined straight to the escalator, and basically climbed all the way to the top of this gigantic Louis Vuitton store. It didn't take long to reach the 4th floor where the cafe was, and when I saw the host, it was the moment of truth.
I have a table for you.
Yes! Looks like the early bird does get the worm. I cannot believe I actually managed to get a table, and right off the bat, Le Café has the most branded decor out of all of the designer restaurants I've been to so far. There's literally a Louis Vuitton trunk right behind me. I don't even know how much that cost. The plates have the LV monogram on them, not to mention the entire restaurant is done in LV's signature color palette. I can't even lie, this is way cooler than I expected. Since it was early, I ordered a latte, and when it came out, I was very surprised to see it also comes with the Louis Vuitton logo on it. I don't even know how they did that. That's a pretty good latte. Now that I got my morning coffee fix out of the way, let's take a look at this menu and see what these prices are. Y'all, this is crazy. Even the menu paper has the Louis Vuitton logo stamped on it. What? I'm honestly not sure if it's because of Cafe Dior, but I wasn't actually surprised by the menu prices. Since I'm here at 10 a.m. right at open, all I can get is breakfast, which is fine. I still feel like that'll give me a decent gauge for how good the restaurant is. The truffle eggs just came out. Honestly, it's very beautiful. The eggs have the Louis Vuitton logo on it. The little breadstick it comes with also has the monogram logo on it. Y'all know the drill. Had to take a few photos because how often are you gonna get the chance to eat a Louis Vuitton breadstick? Once I finished acting like an influencer, I did run into a slight issue. I don't actually know how to eat this. Thankfully, my waitress was very helpful and told me to mix the truffle and eggs, then dip the breadstick in there for a tasty bite. So the bread's nice and light, eggs salted pretty well. The issue is the truffles are supposed to be the most expensive part of this dish, but I'm not really tasting any, even though truffles do have a very distinct flavor. So far, not a bad start, but I'm not amazed yet. Awesome, thank you so much, appreciate it. My expensive waffle has arrived. Keep in mind, this was $48. In front of me is their famous Louis Vuitton waffle, served with golden Acetra caviar. Of course, it does have the LV signature logo on it. I think I just eat this like I would a regular waffle. Got a piece of waffle, put some of that caviar and butter on it, and okay. It's not bad. Caviar is good quality. The waffle itself is nice and fluffy. Exterior's got a nice little crunch. I'm not sure if it was because I was expecting maybe like a little more intricate flavors, but these still kind of taste a little basic. It honestly kind of feels like Louis Vuitton just took a bunch of fancy ingredients, threw their logo on it, then called it a day without actually making an interesting dish. But you know what? Maybe I'm being a little too harsh, so to give them one more shot, I decided to get myself a little sweet treat. Alright y'all, so dessert has arrived, and clearly this is the prettiest thing I've ordered so far. This is their chocolate cake covered with Louis Vuitton logos. This is also the dessert that people rave about on Google, so we'll see if it's good. Cheers. Alright. You got me. That is a good dessert. It's not too heavy, which I'm actually surprised about. There's a salted caramel inside for that nice sweet and salty flavor. Honestly, good combo. I can see why people are raving about this, and I definitely will be eating the entire thing. I demolished the rest of that delicious cake. Then I got the bill, which came out to over $138, not including tips. Alright, y'all, breakfast is complete, and now it's time for the final deliberations. These are my thoughts. Service was impeccable. Honestly, my waitress was fantastic. Very nice. She even let me take one of these Louis Vuitton pens, which I really appreciate. However, honestly, the only thing that really excited me was that cake. The actual breakfast entrees were pretty basic, and the flavors weren't exciting at all. The grand total after tip came out to a little over $165, which is insane for a single person. So with that being said, was Le Cafe at Louis Vuitton worth it? I'm gonna have to say no. I don't know. I can't justify paying that much. Unfortunately, it seems like my initial hypothesis was correct, but who knows? Maybe the next restaurant won't be so bad. Alright y'all, we've officially made it to what I'm hoping will be the best restaurant in this entire video. Right next to me is Gucci Osteria, the only designer restaurant in America that's managed to earn a coveted Michelin star. This restaurant was made in partnership with legendary chef Massimo Bottura, and trust me, this dude is legit. He's the chef and owner of Osteria Francescana, which has 3 Michelin stars. And back in 2016 and 2018, it literally won the title of best restaurant in the entire world. Now, since such a high caliber chef has his name on the line with this restaurant, the food has to be good, but the real question is, will it be worth it? There's only one way to find out, so let's go check in for my reservation. I made my way through this gated entrance into a hallway covered in Gucci wallpaper, which I think you can actually buy. But just to confirm, is it true you can buy this wallpaper?
Yes.
That's
This Gucci wallpaper, yes.
That's crazy.
Alright, well, enjoy.
Awesome, thank you. I feel so out of place. I took the elevator to the second floor where their main dining area was and was greeted by 2 fancily dressed gentlemen who led me right to my table. And just like the last spot, Gucci Osteria looks like it came straight out of a designer catalog. It was decorated in Gucci's classic color palette, and not to mention, this is literally my table setup. I have a feeling you can buy this somewhere on their website. I'm not sure, but it looks purchasable. Now, something else that sets this restaurant apart from the other designer restaurants is that they actually focus on a specific style of cuisine. Since Gucci originated in Florence, Italy, you guessed it, they make Italian food here. Let's see what they got. I totally expected to see prices that were way out of my budget, but surprisingly, only 2 dishes were super expensive. Everything else is pretty reasonably priced considering they do have a star. The most expensive thing on here though is their tasting menu, and unfortunately I feel like I'm gonna have to get it. Since it features all of their classic dishes, it'll give me the best gauge for how good this restaurant actually is. I placed my order, got one of their fancy drinks, then a few minutes later, they brought out the amuse-bouche. That's French for a tiny dish served before the meal, meant to wake up my palate, by the way. We got some bread paired with a very pretty looking butter, some ricotta, and I think this is a bread custard with caviar and some kind of foam on top. Let's give this a try. Look at this foam. I feel like I'm eating soap. This is not what I expected it to be. There's so many different textures. There's something else in there that adds like a nice crunch. Overall, quite tasty. Now let's try this bread and some of that fancy butter. Honestly, this is like my favorite part of every meal. I love carbs. It's so pretty though, I feel bad cutting into it. This is so difficult to do with one hand. I'm gonna be brutally honest here. While it is high quality bread, it is just basic bread and butter. Nothing too special about it, but the good news is this part was free and the first course should be coming out any second now. Enjoy. Thank you, appreciate it. So the first course is their ensalada de mare. Yes, it is a salad dish, but according to my waiter, when Chef Massimo came to the US, he wanted to recreate the classic Italian seafood salad, but with fresh California ingredients. I don't eat salad too often, but I gotta say, this one is very pretty, and the dude made it sound really good. Cheers. You know, this is really good. All of the greens taste really fresh. The acidity makes the entire salad feel really bright, and I really like the calamari. Not gonna lie, I am very surprised by how much I enjoyed course number 1. I am curious how many of the next courses, if any at all, will have the Gucci logo on them. I haven't seen anything yet, but I have a feeling there's gotta at least be one. Y'all, I'm gonna be so for real right now. Gucci Osteria is blowing my mind. The second course just arrived, and apparently, it's Massimo Bottura's signature tortellini dish. The filling is made with pork and veal. I can smell just the Parmesan from right here, and it smells divine. I'm also a sucker for cheese. Let's give this a try. Cheers. Oh man. Oh man, oh man. Look, I knew this restaurant was supposed to be good because it has the Michelin star. They don't give that to just anybody, but I didn't expect it to be this good. The sauce is a 36-month-old Parmesan cream, and it is so good. It's so nice and creamy. Salt levels are perfect. Dude, what is going on? I also like that the portion sizes aren't super tiny because I'll actually be able to leave here full. In case you think I'm exaggerating, here's proof I liked it. It's gone. The third course was a deep-fried cod dish that I may have completely forgot to film before digging in. My apologies for that. It was very delicious though. So far, still no dish with the Gucci logo on it. I am very surprised about that. Once I finished the cod, it was finally time for dessert, which means this is the last course. Honestly, I'm okay with it though because I was starting to get full, but I still have room for this. This dessert in front of me is called Citrus Citrus Citrus. I'm assuming it's very citrusy. I was told that it's a play on multiple different textures, which is very exciting. Gotta love textures. That's basically all I know about it, so without further ado, let's give it a try. Oh my god. This sounds a little weird to explain, but the moment I tasted this, I feel like I woke up. It's so bright, obviously very citrusy. It's still really balanced. The different textures are so fun. I don't even know how to describe some of them. This is honestly the perfect way to finish off a meal. Absolutely demolished that thing. To end off my meal, my waiter brought out some tiny bite-sized treats, which were very tasty, along with a little Gucci box. Y'all, I finally got something with the Gucci logo on it. Inside, there's local tea for me to take home, which is interesting. Not what I expected, but cool. Now all that's left for me to do is pay the bill and give y'all my final verdict. Dinner's complete. The total bill ended up costing a little over $258, which is very expensive, especially considering I was the only one that was fed. However, despite all of that, the food was delicious, service was great, and honestly, I think I can justify the price. I can't believe I'm saying this, especially since I've wasted a ton of money at the other spots. But I actually believe this designer restaurant is worth the money. And you know what? At least I got some cool pictures for the gram. By the way, y'all should follow me if you haven't already. Goodbye.